Hey, yo, what it do, crew? It's your favorite Coloradan with a noggin, Elijah X, coming at you live in the flesh. And with everything happening in today's world, especially and primarily with the Iran war and a lot of people's open disdain for Israel's government and their actions and what's coined to be a genocide amongst many, I would like to clarify a stance in which I do take. I want people to know that the folks who are so hard assed and deadpan against Israel and their actions, we are we are against the Zionist ideology that pervades the governance of Israel and our American government. We're not against Jews primarily. We're not against any full group of people. In fact, that tribalist mentality is what spurs all of this division that they want to keep forcing down our throat. And at the end of the day, it's not doing anything to serve us. We're doing everything to serve their means and motives. So I just want to clarify that we do draw a distinction between Zionists, Israeli Zionists, American Zionists. Like I said, Zionism is an ideology, and Jews, because there are Orthodox Jews that cannot tolerate Zionists. There's videos of them calling them Nazis and chasing them out of towns. But one thing that a lot of people, rightfully so, they criticize Jews for is that they don't believe that Jesus is God. They do not believe he is the Messiah. And a lot of, not the whole Jewish faith, but some follow the Talmud and other literal, you know, books that coin that Jesus is burning in feces and excrement in hell. Well, this video tonight or today, whenever I do end up posting it, is what if one of our Jewish brethren actually understands exactly who Jesus is? Like, what if they actually understand instead of being indoctrinated like everyone else, and they came to clarity with the fact that Jesus is indeed the Messiah of theirs. He's all of our Messiahs, not just the Jewish Messiah, not just the Christian Messiah. He is the Messiah of the world. What happens? So let's go on over to this video because it's a good one.
The last thing in this world that I ever wanted to believe is that Jesus is our Jewish Messiah. I did not want to believe that. I kept saying to myself, yeah, but what about the Crusades? What about the Inquisition? What about the Holocaust? What about the pogroms? What about the anti-Semitism? What about the hatred we've experienced all of our life from Christians? What about that? And on the inside, I kept hearing, yes, those things happen, but that doesn't change the fact that Jesus is our Messiah. Gulp. I did not want to see this. I did not want to think this. I did not want to believe this.
Stanley was a respected Jewish leader and devoted father who believed Christianity was both dangerous and false. When his daughter became a Christian, he was devastated, so he picked up a New Testament, determined to prove that Jesus could not be the Messiah. What happened next is one of the most powerful stories of God's pursuing grace you will ever hear. A hardened heart slowly melted by the very words he set out to disprove. Let's dive in.
I was 50 years of age. I've been going to synagogue all my life. How come we never read Psalm 22 or Isaiah 53? And then I turned to Jeremiah 31, and at verse 31, I read an amazing statement. Jeremiah 31:31, in our side of the Bible, says, God says, lo, the day is coming when I will enter into a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. A new covenant God's promising to us Jewish people. A new covenant he's promising to us. I was raised to believe that the new covenant was for Gentiles only, not for Jews. And here is a promise from the living God saying that he's going to give to us a new covenant. I was astonished that I'd never known this before. And after a while, I turned to the last part of the 9th chapter of the book of Daniel. And this is a very complicated portion of Scripture. Those of you who read it know what I'm talking about. I don't remember what verse it is, 26, 25, 27, somewhere in there. There's a 4-part statement. It's very complicated, but breaking it down, it says this. It says that Jerusalem shall be destroyed, and the temple, by the prince who shall come after the Messiah is cut off. Jerusalem shall be destroyed, and the temple, by the prince who shall come after the Messiah is cut off. Well, I knew at this time that Jerusalem had been destroyed in the year 70. I knew that the temple had been destroyed in the year 70. I knew that General Titus was the Roman general who destroyed the city, and he was the son of Emperor Vespasian. Therefore, Titus was a prince. And if it only had stopped there, I would have been safe. Jerusalem shall be destroyed, and the temple by the prince who shall come. But there was a 4th part. And the 4th part says, these things will happen after the Messiah is cut off. Which said to me that either this book that I've been reading, these scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, are nothing more than the story of the Jewish people, or the Messiah came before the year 70.
I love how sincere, you can just see it in his face. You can like feel it in his expression. Like he still is experiencing that sense of enlightenment as he's speaking about Jesus and his revelations, and it's a beautiful thing to witness.
I was in shock. How can this be? How can this be? I don't want to believe this. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. At this point in time, I'm not going to tell you how great I was, but I was a trustee of this Jewish organization, on the board of that Jewish organization, man of the year for this Jewish organization. How can this be? How can I consider what I'm reading? How can this be true? It's probably just a myth. It can't possibly be true, I kept saying to myself. But the more I said that, the more I said, I had a nagging on the inside of me saying, wait a minute, this is a prophecy that was written long before Jesus. Long before Jesus. So either this is not true, or else our Messiah came before the year 70.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I did not want to see this. I did not want to think this. I did not want to believe this. Fortunately for me, this is in June of 1975. Fortunately for me, I was going to have to go to San Francisco for a meeting. I was going to be a speaker at a conference with 4 other guys. And while I was going to go to San Francisco, my wife Ethel was going to go up to be with Judy in Boston. And my daughter Ann was going to go visit a friend of hers as a graduation present from high school. She was going to go visit a friend of hers in L.A. So the family's all provided for. I take off and I go up to San Francisco. Our panel meets. We have a rehearsal. And then we all go out for lunch together. And we don't really know each other too well. So what do you do? Tell us about your family. What are your hobbies? And this one guy that I'm sitting next to says, well, I'm secretary of a Bible school. I said, oh, my. I can't get away from it. So the next couple of 3 hours, we sit there talking.
It's just like the story of Jonah. Like, when you start getting these inklings and the niggling and nagglings, like he said, God has a way of pursuing you, and a lot of people run from it, and they can, lie to themselves that that's not what they're sensing. But God has such interesting ways of popping up around you and making it known to only you.
I kept asking him questions, and he kept answering questions. But he wasn't trying to push anything on me. He was just trying to let me know what he knew. And that, to me, was very, very important. Well, Ann's in L.A., I'm in San Francisco, Ethel's in Boston. It's time for us all to gather home. We gather home. And I hear, at that point, that there's going to be, you got to hear me, there's going to be an international, I laugh even as I say the words, an international convocation of Messianic Jews. an international convocation of messianic. All 8 of them are going to come, and they're going to. I couldn't believe an international. I wouldn't be caught dead there for anything. So when I got there, I was a little bit late. I didn't have time to register. So I left my bag in the car, and I went into the meeting, and I sat down, and there were maybe 500 or 600 people there. And I wasn't paying any attention to what was being said, but I'm looking at faces. Is he or isn't he? Is she or isn't she? Jewish or not Jewish? You know. And my guess is that maybe 40% of the people were Jewish there. I have no way of knowing how many there actually were. But the meeting is over now. The morning session's over, and it's time to have lunch. So I go to register and make my way to the dorm. And I see this lady. She had palsy of one kind or another, having a hard time carrying a briefcase and her suitcase and going to where she's going. So we're going in the same direction, and I say, look, may I help you with your bag? She said, sure. So I carry her bag and my bag, and I introduce myself. I'm Stan. I'm from Bethesda, Maryland. I'm Lillian. I'm from Philadelphia. And then Lillian turns to me. She says, tell me, Stan, for how long have you been a believer? And I said, whoa, wait 1 minute. I'm not a believer. I'm an inquirer. I didn't know that you never tell a believer that you're an inquirer, because if you do, they'll say, let's sit down and talk. And that's exactly what happened. Lillian, there's a bench there, a concrete bench, and Lillian said, well, let's sit down and talk, okay? And I thought she was tired, so we sit down. And she said, do me a favor. I said, what? She said, would you take my Bible out of my briefcase? And I said, sure. Took out her Bible.
I want to tell you something. Even if you're not a believer, there's something, not, I would say electric, but there's something so sensible when you touch a Bible, when you pick up a Bible, and either if it's, especially if it's for someone or someone else's, there's a certain sense of magnitude that almost permeates from your fingertips through your nervous system. It's a very wild thing. You'll probably notice it next time, but you'll know what I mean. If you know it, you know.
Would you open to Exodus chapter 20? Great. Our side of the Bible? No problem. I know exactly where it is. Open it up. She says, would you read what it says? Sure. I am the Lord your God, who delivered thee out of the land of Egypt. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The first commandment. She said, close the Bible. Close the Bible and look at it. She said, tell me, Stan, who is your God? And I came out with the eloquent statement, huh? Well, what are you asking me? Well, who is it you worship? What is it you worship? What do you spend your time thinking about? What's at the center of your life? Is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob the God of our fathers? Is he your God? Or are you following after false gods? I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, false gods like your wife, your children, your money, your business, your golf game. What is it you spend your time thinking about? And with each one of those questions, it was like an arrow going right into me, because I was spending all of my time thinking about these things, and God was nowhere in my thoughts. I rarely ever thought about God. I can't remember, except for God bless you. I can't remember even mentioning the name of God. And I can't tell you very much about the rest of the day, because you can imagine the turmoil that was going on the inside of me. I went to the rest of the meetings and had lunch with a group of people, had dinner with the same people, and went to the evening meeting, but I can't tell you anything about that, because what was going on, the turmoil that was going on inside of me was too great. And then it was time to go to bed. It must have been about 11:30, and it was hot. It was a hot July day, July 2nd, 1975. And it must have been 90, 95 degrees out, and the room had no air conditioning, no fan, no nothing. And I am dying with the heat. And I couldn't tell whether it was hotter on the inside or hotter on the outside. I can't fall asleep. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm still not asleep. And finally, I hear my roommate, Art. I hear him turning over, so I whisper, Art, are you awake? And he says, yeah, Stan, what's the matter? I said, would you do me a favor? He said, what? I said, would you please pray for me? Now, I hadn't asked anybody to pray for me since before I went overseas in World War II, when I asked my grandfather, Isaac Baskin, to pray for me. And he prayed for me and gave me permission to eat non-kosher food. And now I'm asking Art, all these years later, for him to pray for me. I can't tell you what he prayed. I have no idea what he prayed. But all I knew is I was awake. The next morning, the sun was shining. It was almost 7 o'clock. I'm hungry. It's time to go have breakfast. So I got cleaned up and off I went. I left him sleeping. And I go into the cafeteria, and there are these people I'd had lunch and dinner with the day before. And so they wave at me and motion me to come over and crash the line. I did. Nobody complained. And we fill our trays and go and sit down at a table, put our trays down at a table. I put mine down. And by this time, I know that you don't, just because you have your tray down, you don't pick up a knife and fork and start to eat. Somebody has to say something, you know. So I wait, and Shirley Moses Byrne, the wife of this guy that I've been talking to, turns to me and says, "Stan, would you lead us in prayer?" What do I prayer? So I recite the old Hebrew prayer, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Praise art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who bringeth forth bread from the earth. And I was done. But I know that these people don't end with one sentence. They keep going on. So what do you do now? So I don't know what I said. I know I thanked him for this. I thanked him for that, for the way the grass was standing up straight. I have no idea what I thanked him for, but that's not important. What happened was, when I finished my prayer, I said, "In Jesus' name." And when I said that, it was like a volcano erupting, because I had already believed. I'd believed for a couple of weeks already, but I was counting the cost. I didn't want to believe. I did not want to believe. This is the last thing in the world that I ever wanted to believe. I kept saying to myself, yeah, but what about the Crusades? What about the Inquisition? What about the Holocaust? What about the pogroms? What about the anti-Semitism? What about the hatred we've experienced all of our life from Christians? What about that? And on the inside, I kept hearing, yes, those things happen, but that doesn't change the fact that Jesus is our Messiah.
This is a pattern of grace, even as...
That's so beautiful. That's honestly so beautiful. It stirred something in my heart at the moment. I'll tell you in a little while, but you could just sense it off of him, just oozing off of him, the elation from knowing that Jesus is King, Christ is King. And, I just wanted to share that with you guys, because there's this misconception that we Christians are being anti-Semitic. They call us that at any given turn. We say one thing, anti-Semitic. They won't engage in actual discussion and topics of conversation. If they don't like it or they don't want to hear it, they'll just slang out that term. But there's a lot of Jewish people who love Christians. There are a lot of Christians who love Jewish people. And there are a lot of Jews who actually believe in Jesus. Ain't that about something? But that's all I wanted to share with y'all this evening. I just believe it's good for everybody to see that every once in a while, that, it doesn't matter what quote unquote religion you are, where you stand in life, how you came up. Because if you want to know what true love is, what true unbridled joy in life is, you're going to end up somewhere worshiping Jesus Christ. Have a good one, guys. Appreciate you.